The neon signs of New Shanghai cast a purple glow through Nia Winter's bedroom window, their light dancing across the meditation crystals that lined her windowsill. She sat cross-legged on her bed, trying to focus on her breathing exercises, but her mind kept wandering to the strange marks that had appeared on her skin that morning, iridescent patterns that seemed to shift and move in the dim light. At 17, Nia had always known she was different. The mandatory monthly medical examinations, the private tutors, the guards disguised as household staff. It all pointed to something beyond normal protective parents. But today felt different. The marks were new, and for the first time in her life, she felt a strange resonance with the crystals her guardian, Dr. Reed, had insisted she keep close. A soft chime echoed through her room, followed by Dr. Reed's voice through the intercom. "Nia, it's time for your evening assessment." There was an edge to his voice she'd never heard before. She made her way down the sterile white hallways of what her guardians called the Institute, though she knew it was really a heavily fortified research facility disguised as a private school. The few other students she saw were likely cover stories, though she'd never been allowed close enough to any of them to confirm her suspicions. Dr. Reed waited in his usual examination room, but tonight the normally composed scientist seemed agitated. His dark eyes darted between his holoscreen and the door, and his usually pristine lab coat was wrinkled, as if he'd been running his hands through it repeatedly. "The markers are accelerating," he muttered, more to himself than to her. "We're running out of time." "What markers?" Nia demanded, tired of the secrets. "What's happening to me?" Reed looked at her, really looked at her, for perhaps the first time in years. "You were chosen, Nia. Before you were born, you were selected by the Solarian Empire as their next queen." The words hung in the air like smoke, heavy and suffocating. The Solarians, the alien empire that collapsed 20 years ago. "They didn't collapse," Reed corrected, pulling up a holographic display showing a vast network of stars. "They went into hiding. Their species was being hunted to extinction by rivals who feared their power. They needed a solution, a way to preserve their royal lineage while adapting to survive. They found it in human DNA." Nia's head spun as Reed explained how the Solarians had discovered that certain human genetic markers could allow for perfect symbiosis with their royal bloodline. They had screened millions of human genetic profiles before finding her, still in the womb. Her parents hadn't sold her or given her up. They'd died in what she'd always been told was an accident, but now she wondered if that too had been arranged. "The marks appearing on your skin," Reed continued, "they're the first sign that your body is preparing for the transformation. The Solarian Queen essence we've kept in stasis all these years, it's ready to merge with you, to complete what we've prepared for since before you were born." A distant alarm began to wail, cutting through the tension like a knife. Reed's face went pale. "No, they couldn't have found us. Not now." The facility's defensive shields hummed to life as Reed grabbed her arm, pulling her toward a hidden door behind his medical equipment. "The Phantom Brigade," he explained as they hurried through the secret passage. "Mercenaries hired by those who still hunt the Solarians. They'll kill you to prevent the royal line from continuing." They emerged in a sealed chamber deep within the facility. In the center stood a crystalline pod filled with swirling golden light. "The Queen's essence," Reed breathed. "We have to begin the merger now." The door exploded inward in a shower of metal and sparks. Through the smoke stepped a figure in sleek combat armor, her helmet retracting to reveal a face marked with cybernetic implants. "Dr. Reed," the mercenary commander said with a cold smile. "The Phantom Brigade sends their regards." Reed stepped in front of Nia, arms spread wide. "Commander Vale, please, you don't understand what's at stake." "I understand perfectly," Vale replied, raising her weapon. "The last Solarian queen dies here, before she can even be born." The shot rang out, and Reed crumpled to the ground. Nia screamed, diving toward the crystalline pod, as Vale's troops poured into the room. Her fingers brushed the glowing surface, and the world exploded into golden light. The last thing she heard before consciousness faded was Vale's voice, twisted with fury and fear. "What have you done?" Pain flooded through Nia's body as the golden light of the Queen's essence coursed through her veins. Every cell seemed to burn and transform, her DNA rewriting itself as ancient alien consciousness merged with her own. Through the haze of agony, she could hear Commander Vale barking orders, the sound of weapons charging, the heavy footfalls of armored troops surrounding her. The transformation wasn't supposed to happen like this. It should have been controlled, guided, prepared for over weeks or months. Instead, the essence of an alien queen was forcing its way into her system all at once, and her body was barely containing the power. "Burn it all down." Vale's voice cut through the chaos. "Don't let her complete the merger." Plasma bolts sizzled through the air, but they dissipated against a shield of pure energy that had formed around Nia's transforming body. The golden light that had filled the pod now enveloped her completely, lifting her off the ground as her consciousness expanded. Memories that weren't her own flooded her mind. Vast crystal cities on distant worlds, the weight of a crown that governed billions, the terror of watching her people hunted to near extinction. She wasn't just Nia anymore. She was the last heir to an empire that spanned galaxies, and she was about to be erased from existence. Something snapped inside her. The shield of energy exploded outward, sending Vale's troops flying backward. Nia's eyes snapped open, now glowing with an inner light that cast strange shadows on the walls. Her skin had taken on an opalescent sheen, the strange markings from before now forming intricate patterns that pulsed with power. Vale stood her ground, face twisted in a snarl. "You're too late, little queen. Even if you survive this, you have nowhere to go. The Phantom Brigade has bases on every major world in this sector. We'll hunt you down." Nia raised her hand, surprised to find she knew exactly how to channel the energy coursing through her. "You killed the only person who ever cared for me," she said, her voice resonating with harmonics that made the air itself vibrate. "That was your first mistake." The blast that erupted from her palm wasn't just energy. It was pure Solarian power, the same force that had built their legendary cities and powered their mighty fleets. Vale dove to the side, but the blast caught her cybernetic arm, dissolving it into particles of light. Warning klaxons blared throughout the facility as Nia's unleashed power began to destabilize the building's foundations. She could feel the structure groaning around her, systems failing as the energy she was emanating disrupted everything it touched. "Fall back," Vale ordered, clutching the stump of her arm. "Call in the Harbinger." She fixed Nia with a look of pure hatred. "You think this power makes you special? It makes you a target. Everyone will know what you are now. The hunt begins today." As Vale's forces retreated, Nia stumbled to Dr. Reed's body. He was gone, but his tablet was still functioning. With trembling fingers, she downloaded everything she could. Files, coordinates, research data. She wouldn't let his death be meaningless. The facility's reactor was going critical, overloaded by the surge of alien energy. Nia could feel it building toward explosion, but she couldn't control the power flowing through her yet. Everything hurt. Everything was too bright, too loud, too much. Through the haze of sensory overload, she spotted an emergency escape pod. Standard equipment for a secret facility this important. She half ran, half stumbled toward it, her newly enhanced body moving with a grace she didn't yet understand. As she strapped herself in, a massive shadow fell over the building. Through the pod's viewport, she saw it, the Harbinger, the Phantom Brigade's flagship, a warship that stretched across the sky like a blade of darkness. They weren't just sending hunters. They were declaring war. The escape pod launched just as the facility exploded, the shockwave sending her tumbling through the atmosphere. As New Shanghai shrank behind her, Nia clutched Dr. Reed's tablet to her chest. She had no idea how to be a queen, how to control these powers, or even where to go. But she knew one thing. She wasn't going to let them win. The pod's navigation system blinked, asking for coordinates. In her mind, she could see maps of hidden places, sanctuary worlds where Solarian refugees had once fled. The memories weren't fully integrated yet, more like fragments of dreams than useful information, but they were enough to give her a heading. As she punched in the coordinates, she caught her reflection in the pod's metallic surface. Her once brown eyes now swirled with galaxies, and the markings on her skin told stories in a language she was only beginning to understand. She wasn't just running for her life now. She was running toward a destiny she never asked for, carrying the legacy of an alien civilization in her transformed DNA. The pod accelerated into dark space, leaving Earth behind. Somewhere in the vastness of space, answers waited. But first, she had to survive. The hunt was on, and Nia Winters, the reluctant heir to an alien throne, was only beginning to understand what she had become. The neon jungle of Proxima Station sprawled before Nia like a fever dream of light and shadow. 3 months had passed since her escape from Earth, and she'd learned to wear her new powers like a cloak, hidden beneath layers of careful control. The markings on her skin now lay dormant, visible only to those who knew exactly what to look for. In the grimy mirror of her rented room, she practiced the manipulation techniques she pieced together from the fragments of Solarian memory swimming in her mind. Golden light danced between her fingers, then faded to nothing. She was getting better at this, but it wasn't enough. Not with the Phantom Brigade closing in. A gentle chime from Dr. Reed's tablet drew her attention. She'd finally managed to decrypt another layer of his files, revealing coordinates and contact protocols for something called the Sanctuary Network. Before his death, Reed had apparently been part of an underground movement helping displaced Solarians survive in hiding. The tablet's screen flickered with an incoming transmission, heavily encrypted. A face materialized. Sharp features, silver hair, eyes that seemed to shift color like oil on water. "I am Theron," the figure said, his voice carrying both authority and caution. "We've been watching you, young queen. It's time we talked." "I'm not a queen," Nia replied, the words bitter in her mouth. "I'm a science experiment gone wrong." Theron's expression softened slightly. "You're far more than that. The essence that merged with you, it wasn't just any Solarian queen. It was Empress Lysandra herself, the last true ruler of our people. And now her knowledge, her power, flows through your veins." Before Nia could respond, proximity alarms blared throughout the station. Through her window, she saw ships dropping out of dark space, the sleek, predatory silhouettes of Phantom Brigade vessels. "They found me," she breathed, already grabbing her meager belongings. "How do they keep finding me?" "The essence calls to them," Theron explained quickly. "Like a beacon of pure energy. I can help you control it, mask it, but you need to reach us. I'm sending coordinates to a safe house on." The transmission cut off as an explosion rocked the station. Nia stumbled, catching herself against the wall as her enhanced senses picked up the sound of heavy footsteps approaching. Not just troops this time. She could feel the distinctive energy signature of powered armor suits. She slipped into the corridor just as her room's door burst inward. A figure in midnight black armor stepped through, scanning the area with augmented sensors. "Target's fresh trail heading east," a familiar voice reported. "All units converge." Commander Vale. Of course she'd lead this hunt personally. Nia ran, not toward the evacuation pods where they'd expect her, but deeper into the station's maintenance levels. The Solarian memories were flooding her mind now, showing her things about the station's architecture that even its builders might not know. Every space station in human territory had been built using technology reverse-engineered from Solarian designs. She found what she was looking for, a maintenance shaft that connected to the station's power distribution network. As Vale's troops thundered overhead, Nia placed her hand against a seemingly ordinary panel. Golden light pulsed from her fingertips, and the panel slid aside, revealing a hidden passage. "Clever girl," Vale's voice echoed from above. "Using the old ways. But did your borrowed memories tell you we've been studying Solarian tech for decades?" The passage in front of Nia erupted in plasma fire. She threw up an energy shield instinctively, but the blast still sent her sprawling backward. Vale dropped down from above, her armor now sporting a new arm that crackled with dark energy. Like it, Vale flexed the replacement limb, reversed engineered from Solarian artifacts. Not as pure as your power, but it gets the job done. Nia's shield wavered as Vale advanced. Why? She demanded. Why hunt us like this? The Solarians never threatened humanity. Threatened? Vale laughed, the sound distorted by her helmet. They were going to replace us, hybrid by hybrid, generation by generation, until humanity was nothing but a genetic memory. We're not the hunters, little queen. We're the immune system. The commander raised her dark energy arm, but Nia was ready. All these months of practice, of learning to control the power within her, crystallized in a single moment. She didn't just raise a shield. She reached out to the station itself, feeling the Solarian principles woven into its design. Golden light erupted from every panel and conduit, turning the maintenance shaft into a corridor of pure energy. Vale's armor systems went haywire, her enhanced arms sputtering and failing as ancient failsafes activated. You won't win, Vale snarled, struggling to maintain control of her suit. Even if you escape today, we'll never stop. The brigade, the authority, the consortium. They'll all hunt you now. No one wants a Solarian queen reshaping the galaxy. Nia stepped forward, her eyes blazing with inner light. You don't understand what I am. What I'm becoming. I never wanted this power, but I'm done running from it. She gestured, and the energy coursing through the station responded. Vale was thrown backward, her armor systems completely overloaded. Emergency bulkheads slammed down, sealing off the section. As warning sirens blared, Nia accessed the station's internal transport network. Another Solarian innovation humans had copied without fully understanding. She could feel other brigade troops converging on her position, but they'd be too late. The transport beam enveloped her just as Vale's backup arrived. As her molecules began to disassemble for transport, Nia caught a final glimpse of the commander's face through her damaged helmet. The look of fear in Vale's eyes confirmed what Nia had finally accepted. She wasn't just a girl with alien powers anymore. She was becoming something new, something neither human nor Solarian had ever seen before. The coordinates Theron had sent still burned in her mind. It was time to stop running and start understanding what she truly was. The Phantom Brigade thought they were saving humanity, but they created their own worst nightmare. A queen who understood both worlds she came from, and had the power to change them both. The sanctuary moon hung like a jewel in the void, its surface dotted with ancient Solarian ruins that still pulsed with faint energy. As Nia's stolen transport pod descended through the atmosphere, she felt a resonance with the place, a deep ancestral connection that made her transformed DNA sing. Theron waited for her in what had once been a grand temple, now half buried in the moon's purple sands. Other figures moved in the shadows, more Solarian survivors, their forms flickering between human disguises and their true, luminescent forms. "Welcome home," Theron said, spreading his arms. In this safe haven, he too dropped his human appearance, revealing skin that shimmered like mother-of-pearl and eyes that held galaxies. "Here you can finally learn what you were meant to be." But something felt wrong. The memories of Empress Lysandra stirred in Nia's mind, warning her. These ruins, they weren't what they seemed. The architecture was wrong, the energy signatures distorted. "This isn't a Solarian temple," she said slowly, backing away. "It's a lab." Theron's welcoming smile faltered for just a moment. "Perceptive. The Empress's memories serve you well, but you don't understand what we're trying to achieve here." Other figures emerged from the shadows, but they weren't Solarian survivors. They were hybrids like her, humans transformed by stolen Solarian essence. Some looked more alien than human, others barely held their form together, their bodies struggling to contain the power forced into them. The Phantom Brigade thinks too small, Theron continued, his perfect facade cracking to reveal desperation beneath. They want to stop the merger of our species. We want to accelerate it, perfect it. Every hybrid here volunteered for the process. They're dying, Naya realized, seeing the truth in their unstable forms. The transformation isn't taking hold. Because they lack what you have. Theron's voice hardened. The pure essence of Lysandra herself. With it, we could stabilize the process, create a true hybrid species superior to both humans and Solarians. The tablet in Nia's pocket suddenly activated, displaying a final decoded message from Dr. Reed. Her hands trembled as she read it. Nia, if you're seeing this, you've found the Symmetry Group. They're extremists who believe forced evolution is the only way forward. They killed the real Theron years ago. Don't trust anything they tell you. Reed, Theron, or whatever he really was, sneered. Always the idealist. He thought controlled, selective hybridization was the answer. One chosen host for one royal essence. But look what his caution got us. Decades of waiting, and only you to show for it. The other hybrids were moving to surround her, their bodies crackling with unstable energy. Nia could feel their pain, their desperate hunger for what she carried within her. The essence within you could save them. Theron pressed. Save all of us. Let us complete what we started. A memory surfaced. Not hers, but Lysandra's. The Empress had seen this before. Zealots who thought they could force evolution rushed the delicate process of species transformation. It always ended in tragedy. You're wrong, Nia said, her voice carrying the weight of two beings' conviction. This isn't evolution, it's desperation. She raised her hands, golden light flowing from her fingertips. But instead of attacking, she reached out to the hybrid closest to her, a young woman whose form flickered between human and something else. I can't give you what you want, Nia told her gently, but I can end your pain. The hybrid's eyes widened as Nia's power touched her, not merging or transforming, but soothing the chaotic energy that tore at her cells. For the first time, in what must have been years, her form stabilized, fully human again. No, Theron lunged forward, his perfect appearance dissolving to reveal a horrifically mutated form. You're ruining everything. But the other hybrids had seen what Nia could do. They moved toward her, not to attack, but pleading for the same release. One by one, she helped them, drawing out the unstable essence that was killing them. Theron watched his army of hybrids return to their human forms, his plans crumbling. You think this is mercy? You're condemning them to mediocrity. We could have been gods. We're not meant to be gods, Nia replied, the words coming from both her and Lysandra's wisdom. We're meant to be bridges. She turned her power on Theron, but he was too far gone. Years of experimental hybridization had transformed him into something that could no longer be saved. As her energy touched him, his form began to dissolve. You don't understand, he gasped, his body breaking apart into motes of light. The brigade, they're not the real threat. The authority, they're the ones who. He never finished. His form collapsed entirely, leaving nothing but a scatter of luminescent dust that faded into the temple's shadows. Nia stood in the ruins, surrounded by the humans she'd saved, understanding finally dawning. The Phantom Brigade, the Symmetry Group, they were symptoms of a larger disease. Somewhere out there, the mysterious authority was pulling strings, playing humans and Solarians against each other. The tablet in her pocket chimed one final time. The last of Reed's files had decoded, revealing coordinates to something called the Archive, a secret repository of both human and Solarian knowledge. If answers existed about who or what the authority really was, she'd find them there. But first, she had to get these people to safety. The hybrids, now human again, looked to her with a mixture of gratitude and uncertainty. They'd given up everything to chase a false dream of evolution. Now they needed a new purpose. I know somewhere you can go, she told them. thinking of the real sanctuary networks Reed had documented. Somewhere you can help make sure this never happens to anyone else. As she led them out of the false temple, Nia felt Lysandra's memories settling more comfortably in her mind. She wasn't just a hybrid or a queen. She was proof that humans and Solarians could coexist within a single being, if it was done right. That made her something unique in the galaxy, and uniquely dangerous to whoever was really pulling the strings. The archive hung suspended in the heart of a dying star, its crystalline structures refracting the stellar fire around it in endless prismatic patterns. Nia's ship, a sleek vessel borrowed from the Symmetry Group's hangar, navigated through the solar storms using protocols extracted from Lysandra's memories. Inside, the archive was a maze of knowledge made manifest. Holographic displays, crystal matrices humming with stored data, and architecture that seemed to defy physics. But Nia wasn't here for its wonders. She was here for truth. The Authority's mainframe should be at the core, she subvocalized to her companions. The rescued hybrids who'd chosen to follow her, now a skilled team led by a woman named Raven, moved like shadows through the archives halls. Movement ahead, Raven whispered. Brigade signatures. Of course the Phantom Brigade would be here. Vale was nothing if not persistent, but they weren't alone. Other figures moved in the darkness, wearing the sleek armor of Authority peacekeepers. Former enemies working together, united against a common threat. Her threat. Nia reached out with her senses, feeling the archive's systems respond to her presence. She wasn't just connected to its Solarian elements. She understood its human components too. In that moment, she realized why the Authority feared her kind so much. They're trying to delete the core data, Raven reported, checking readings on her wrist display. Whatever's in there, they're willing to destroy the entire archive to keep it hidden. Not if I can help it, Nia replied. She stepped out of cover, golden light emanating from her skin. Vale, I know you're here. Let's finish this. The commander emerged from the shadows, her dark energy arm crackling. But she wasn't alone. Beside her stood a figure in pristine white armor bearing the Authority's insignia. Director Omega, the closest thing the shadowy organization had to a public face. Remarkable, Omega said, his voice artificially modulated. You've grown far beyond our projections. This ends now, Vale growled. No more games. You're right, Nia agreed. No more games. Show me the truth. She released a pulse of energy that interfaced directly with the archive systems. Displays flickered to life around them, showing fragments of a history that had been deliberately erased. The truth unfolded in holographic scenes. Humanity's first contact with the Solarians hadn't been chance. The Authority, an organization that predated both civilizations, had engineered it. They'd manipulated both species for centuries, pushing them toward conflict, preventing alliance. We maintain balance, Omega stated calmly. Without our influence, your species would have merged naturally centuries ago. The result would have been chaos, uncontrolled hybridization, the end of both pure species. You mean the end of your control, Nia countered. You created the Phantom Brigade, fed them just enough truth to make them fear hybridization. Then you created the Symmetry Group to push too hard in the other direction, all to prevent natural cooperation between our peoples. Vale's expression shifted as she watched the historical records play out. All this time, we were just your puppets. We are the gardeners. Omega's voice held no remorse. We prune and shape civilizations to maintain order. Your crusade served its purpose, Commander, as did your Queen, Nia. But now both of you have become disruptive elements. Authority troops moved to surround them, weapons charged, but Nia wasn't afraid. She felt Lysandra's memories aligning with her own understanding, showing her a truth even the Authority hadn't grasped. You don't understand what you've created, she said, her power building. By trying to keep humans and Solarians apart, you forced us to find new ways to come together. I'm not just a hybrid. I'm proof that there's a better way. She reached out, not with energy weapons or destructive force, but with the pure resonance that connected all living things. The Authority troops felt it first, their weapons lowering as they experienced, for the first time, the harmony that was possible between species. Vale gasped as the resonance touched her dark energy arm responding not with destruction but with synchronization. This is what we were fighting against. The end of separation, Omega snarled, his armor engaging protective shields. The end of order. No, Nia corrected. The beginning of understanding. She connected with the archive itself, letting its vast knowledge flow through her. With her power, she didn't need to destroy the Authority's weapons or troops. She could show them the truth, the potential that had been hidden from them. The resonance spread through the archive, then out into space through its quantum networks. Across the galaxy, humans and Solarians, who had been kept apart by manufactured fears, began to feel the possibility of harmony. Omega raised his weapon, but his troops stepped between him and Nea. Vale moved to stand beside her former enemy, her arm's dark energy now glowing with golden light. Your time is over, Nea declared. The Authority's lies end today. You'll destroy everything, Omega warned. Without our guidance, we'll find our own way. Nea cut him off. Together, the archive's core blazed with light as she released its restricted knowledge to everyone. Humans, Solarians, and those like her who bridged both worlds. The Authority's carefully maintained walls of separation began to crumble. Omega raised his hands in surrender, his perfect facade finally cracking. What have you done? Nia looked at the humans and Solarians around her, former enemies now standing together, experiencing the first moments of true understanding. I became what I was meant to be, she answered. Not a queen, not a weapon, a bridge. As the archive's lights spread across the galaxy, Nia felt Lysandra's memories settle into perfect harmony with her own. The Empress had always known this day would come, not through conquest or forced evolution, but through the simple power of truth and understanding. The war was over. The real work of bringing two civilizations together could begin. And Nia Winters, the girl who never wanted to be a queen, had found her true destiny, not to rule, but to guide both her peoples toward a future they would build together.